Okay, so hi everybody, and welcome to Signature West Podcast. I'm your host, Sam West from Palm Springs, California. If you know Palm Springs, you know we love small businesses. We advocate for them, we love to support them. So please help me welcome the latest small business to invade your local grocery stores, Mrs. Ace Famous. Hi, Leah.
Hi, how are you, Sam?
I'm good. How are you? Good morning.
Good.
So I met Leah at Jensen's on Palm Canyon a few weeks ago when I was getting a sandwich, and I turned around. You were sitting on a table giving samples. I did not know what you were giving, and I went to you and I tasted your sample, and I loved it. But before we get to your sample, um, let's talk about your story. You were a school teacher teaching ceramics.
Yes,
Tell me
yes.
how did you
High school ceramics.
and from when to when?
Oh gosh, I got hired in 1981, and 1981 started my teaching career, and it was great.
And how long did that go on for?
Oh my goodness, 40 years and 6,000 students.
Oh my goodness. Um, and how did you get into teaching ceramics? Like how did that start?
Well, we went up when we were 19, and from Southern California up to Santa Cruz, and
Who's we?
What's that?
Who's we?
Oh, my husband and my now husband and I. We
Okay.
were 19. We've been together since we were sophomores in high school. And we just needed a change. And my husband was into music and I was into ceramics. So my brother actually suggested go to Santa Cruz. That's where music and art is happening. And we went up in 75 and got into UC Santa Cruz. Finished our degrees in art/ceramics, and then went to San Jose State to get our teaching credentials. And it was amazing. We landed two of the greatest jobs any ceramics teacher could, or any ceramicist could imagine.
Why was it so great? What was so great about it?
Well, the principal that interviewed me, he goes, "Do you want to go up and see the room?" I'm all, okay. And so we walked up to the ceramics room and he opened the door. And when I walked in, there were 22 potter's wheels, 3 kilns, a clay mixer, a whole glaze counter. And he goes, "Is this okay? Will this do?" And I was just shaking. And I was like, "Yes, this will do. This is great." So most, art classes in high school have a wheel tucked under a counter, or, it was better than most colleges.
Right.
And I was hired in 81, and then my husband was hired at our sister school in the district in 83. So he lasted 32 years, I lasted 40.
And you retired 2 years ago after 4
Yes,
years.
yes. And I'm not having a hard time in retiring. I love it, but I stay busy and active with the business.
And how did you come to Palm Springs and the Coachella Valley? How did that come
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think all of your viewers and listeners know that you blink and life goes by. We left La Puente in the San Gabriel Valley when we were 19. I was born in Montebello. My husband was born downtown Los Angeles. Like I said, we met as sophomores in high school. So we feel like in 2022 or 2021, we came home. And, we lived in the Santa Cruz Mountains in groves and groves of redwood trees and the ocean, and a lot of our friends didn't understand why we came down here. We have family here.
Right.
And I think, at 68, family's important.
Right.
And we just wanted to not miss any more Christmases or Easters or Thanksgivings. We wanted to go to birthday parties. It was just important to us. So my husband's brother lives in Yucca Valley, and I just started looking for houses down here, and I actually bought a house sight unseen. And we've been here going close to 2 years.
So what happened in 2007?
In 2007,
What happened?
I'll go back just a little bit. My husband always incorporated food and music in his classroom. I was not a musician, and I just fed my students, because if you feed teenagers, they behave because they're starving. Yeah. And so, you know, if you talk to kids I had 30 years ago, they said, oh, you're famous for your bean dip, or oh, your lasagna. And we'd also include parents and grandmas, and I'd have grandmas or parents, moms deliver lasagna or their best cinnamon rolls to the back door of the room. We always had food. And in 2007, I was in third period. It was specifically third period. And they said, Mrs. A, we can't wait to be good. We need you to market this now, because we need to go to a store and buy the salsa. And I'm like running around the ceramics room like I do. And I said, okay. So they said, excuse me, we have it named Mrs. A's famous Salsa Buena. I said, great. And I kept running around the room.
And Mrs. A, because A stands for your last name.
Aguayo.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so still working in the room that same period, a young man, Daniel Yang, came up and said, Mrs. A, can I design your label? And I said, absolutely. And he gave me homework that day. I will never forget that moment in my life. He says, I want you to go to the store where you see your product bean, and I want you to buy all of your competitors. I want you to look at labels, ounces, price, ingredients, bring them in, we'll eat them, and then I'll take them home and design the label. And I did it that night.
Idea.
Yeah, he was brilliant. He was brilliant.
How old was he? What grade?
17.
What a great
17.
idea.
And he went to UCLA, and he is now a big designer. He has redesigned all kinds of products. And so anyways, he had the label done in 3 weeks. So then they literally handed me the name and the label. And so I had to move on it. And it's really been a roller coaster,
What were you thinking when they said that to you? Like, here you are, a school teacher. You're certainly not. I don't think you've owned a restaurant before, or you were in the industry before. So here comes your 17-year-old, student. What was going on in your head? What were you thinking?
Well, they planted the seed that third period, and that's pretty much all I need. It's a little suggestion, and then I start thinking about it. And I had no idea. We started out at a farmer's market, and we would sell out every weekend, but that got grueling. When you got to be on the street ready to go at 7. Our son was 5 years old. He was very resentful of having to go and sit on an ice chest with his little, what was it, the Pac-Man little handheld device back then. Yeah. And so anyways, we knew we had something. And if anybody ever asked me, oh, how do I market, my grandma's spaghetti sauce, or, whatever they want to market, I said, do a test market at a farmer's market, because you'll know if you have something. Just get your feedback from customers. And so that's what started it. But I had to figure out, then it was kind of put in my court, how do you, what's required on a label, nutritional analysis, shelf life, you have to do a shelf life study, barcodes. Yeah, so I figured it all out in my little tiny, in my garage basement with a little tiny Apple computer, that had a mini screen and a big back, and just started going. And yeah, when we first started, we had a co-packer in South San Francisco, and my husband and I were delivering salsa after school because we didn't have a co-packer. And I'm not remembering what year it was. It was a couple of years into the business. I went to the fancy food show in San Francisco and paid thousands of dollars to have a little 4-foot table. And I went to the show without distribution. And people were coming by and tasting the salsa, and they were like, how do we get this? And I said, well, I haven't quite figured that out yet.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So I scanned their lanyards and made a list, and I went back to school. I missed a day, and I went back, and my whole day happened. And this one boy in my last class came up and said, Mrs. A, where were you? And I said, well, I was doing something with my business. And he goes, I know, my mom saw it in the paper this morning. It was something fancy.
Oh
And I
God.
said, Miles, run to the library, get the paper. And you know how library newspapers are on those pieces of wood. And he comes running back and he's flailing the newspaper. I said, show me where it is. And we were named one of the top 10 foods out of 80,000
Oh my
at
God.
that food show.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I had tried to get meetings with distributors and they're all, oh, come back when you're bigger, little
Right,
one.
right.
And I called this one that I was chasing and they said, we'll meet with you.
Who
And
was
I
that?
just,
And who was that?
Columbus. And I know everybody knows Columbus's salamis and cheeses and things. So they go, we'll take you on. So it happened. And
That was what year?
let's see, 2007, probably 2009.
So 2 years later from the start.
Yeah.
Okay. Then what happened?
So, I started going into stores because I have no reps, I have no brokers. I am my marketer, and went in with little Tupperwares of salsa and a baggie of chips, and just went to managers, went to owners, and they said, as soon as you get this all together, we'll do it. And I started with 7 stores to 28 stores. I built up to about 150 stores just on my own.
That's crazy.
And
That's crazy.
it's
the
crazy.
hardest thing I hear. I heard this. Not that I've experienced it. Grocery stores are almost impossible to get into. They're just they don't return anybody's call unless you know somebody. So for you to do what you did,
yeah, and this was a while back, so it's so different now. Like I have a list, I've composed a list of all the corporate offices and the buyers that I talked to last year, and they said, get back to us in December and January and we'll have a meeting. And so they don't realize I never forget. And I'm patient, but I'm persistent. And so those emails will start going out, those phone calls will start going out, and I'm chasing Southern California. And I'll tell you, Jensen's is such a nice market. And I went up to Blue Jay and wheeled a little cooler of salsa and chips in and met the buyer up there for Jensen's. And she tasted it. She goes, my goodness, we'll take this in. And I said, great.
Here in Palm Springs.
Yes, Palm Springs and Palm Desert. And
you just went to the buyer and you just a little cooler and
I do people call me I'm a little crazy, but you can't get anywhere if you don't take a chance.
Absolutely.
And I love people, I love telling my story, I love watching them take that first bite of salsa and watch their reaction.
It is really, really tasty, by the way. I tasted it, so I can tell you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So how did the name Salsa Buena come about?
Well, for 40 years, I've been Mrs. A. I kind of have an identity crisis, what's your name? Oh, Mrs. A. And they said, no, what's your real name? I said, Leah. And, but I'm Mrs. A. I've been Mrs. A for 40 years. And it was that third period class that just stopped me. They, boom, within 10 minutes had the name of them letting me know they were doing this and moving forward. So, yeah, so Mrs. A's famous Salsa Buena, and it means good salsa. And maybe right now I can show everybody what the label looks like. There's a beautiful sun, and some people say, oh, the sun looks like Mrs. A. And every container says teacher, mom, and salsa maker. The other thing I'm loving about my container is that it's square. So like at Jensen's in Palm Springs, we're located right across from the meat market. And it's on a lower shelf. And as I'm demoing, they can take it right from my table. But I say, oh, it's right. They go, where is it? I said, it's right at the end of the salsas. All the salsas are round. Go to the square one with the sun. So it kind of.
You're across the way in the aisle across from the meat on the lower shelf.
Yes. And then in Palm Desert, it's at the back of the store with the other salsas, kind of the dairy products, because I come in through dairy because it's refrigerated.
Do you know how fantastic it is that you're in 2 grocery stores, a well-known, nice brand grocery store? You're in 2. I mean, that's really quite a bit of an accomplishment, even though in how many years it doesn't really, I don't know. We talked about maybe you should go on Shark Tank, and
Ooh,
you said you were terrified.
terrified of Mr. Wonderful.
Don't be terrified of Mr. Wonderful. Just if
He
you've
makes
gone,
me
if you've
nervous.
gone, if you've gone this far, you can handle anything, just as long as you're prepared for the questions.
Yeah,
I think they'll
I
be
know.
ready for you.
I've done a little research on the application, and I'm just not sure. But I'm trying to go across the country. And since we came, we were 47 years in Northern California. We're in 550 supermarkets in Northern California, Nevada, Washington, Oregon, and we are in a couple stores in Wyoming. So what I'm trying to do is move east and get Arizona, Colorado. I have students everywhere too, and they message me like, can you get it in Florida? Can you get it in, Boston? Can we get it
But
in New York?
they're not helping you with the work. They're just you're a one man show, a
I'm
one
a
woman
one-man
show.
show, but you know what I call you all, and see, you're one of my little jalapenos now. I appreciate everybody who believes in it, loves it, and helps me move on, take a step up. Yeah.
But you're doing, again, you're doing all the prep, the packaging, the storage, that's all on
Well,
you.
there's a story on that too. We had the co-packer in the beginning, then we went into a shared commercial kitchen and we were producing, and we outgrew that. So for my 60th birthday, my husband had found a space up in Santa Cruz in a commercial building area.
Right.
And he says, do you want a commercial kitchen for your birthday? I'm like, oh, okay. And we took a leap of faith and we
Right.
built out a 3,400 square foot commercial kitchen in Santa Cruz. But would I do that again, or would I recommend that to people? I wouldn't, because the cost, it doesn't matter if you're Mrs. A and Mr. A with a small family company, or you're, a huge berry company. Up there, we grow a lot of berries, and I can say the name, but if you have 600 employees or you have two, you have to do the same thing. So we were ruled by the FDA, and we had to keep records, verification, validation, everyday paperwork that had to be done. The kitchen, you could do brain surgery in our kitchen, basically. And
Wow.
we went through 5 FDA years of food audits. And I mean, we scored 94% the first time, because I didn't know what I missed. And then we went right up to 99. And the last one before we left, we got 100%. And this auditor says, I can't ding you on anything. You're amazing, the two of you. So that made us very proud, but it was the cost of running your own commercial kitchen, and in Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz is very, very expensive.
Right.
So we went to another co-packer, and it's made up in Richmond, which is by Berkeley. My 2 big distributors now, because I have 2, they go and pick it up from the docks there, take it to their warehouse in Sacramento, and then it gets trucked down here to the Moreno Valley DC distribution center, and that's how I get it down here.
What I'm thinking right now as you're telling me this story, because I'm also over 60. I just turned 62 last week. Most people, when they retire, they do less. They hunker down. They more what's the word I'm thinking of? They're just more. They take less risks. You're doing the opposite.
I know. That's why my friends call me crazy. I'm a crazy.
No, I'm not at all. I wouldn't call you crazy. I would never.
No. And
I would say I think it's a great example for all the people that want to retire and go golfing instead all day. Well, nothing wrong with golfing, just not my thing. I just think it's fantastic, and I'm just wondering, where is that risk, ambition, at that age coming from?
So when I was teaching, I had 165 kids a day, and we were raising our son. We were running a salsa business. So actually now having a co-packer, I feel like, I don't have to wash 300 to 400 bunches of cilantro. twice a week. And that, everything was hand done in our kitchen, hand poured. Every container of salsa was hand poured and capped, and run through a metal detection machine. That's the FDA coming in again. But I have always cooked. I've been cooking since I was 8 years old. In fact, on my website, www.mrsafamous.com, I wrote a cookbook, and it's nothing fancy, but it's just my comfort foods. Some of them have the salsa, some of them have just recipes that I love. And I'm also famous for my soups.
Oh.
And I did it, yeah. So I do feel like I've calmed down a bit, and I feel like I can breathe and enjoy. But what I would tell everybody is, I call it a simple sharing of your passion. My passion is cooking. My purpose in life is feeding people. And so I just can't make a small pot of soup. I have to make a big pot of soup. And then I find people to feed. And, it might be a senior, it might be a friend who's not feeling well. I have a friend whose husband has cancer right now, and he was dropping so much weight. I said, my soup is magical.
I want your soup. Well, they'll get you. I want you to taste your soup.
Oh my gosh, I will get you some. It is so delicious. And if you look at my cookbook, I have a white bean and spinach. I have an albondigas. I have a black bean. Soup has also been tied into my teaching. For 22 years at both schools, I would do the Super Bowl, SOUPER. And my students and I would make, some years if I had a good team, a higher level ceramics 2-3, we would make 500 bowls on the potter's wheel. Some years we only had 300. And then the culinary classes would make my soup recipes, and we'd have a huge community soup supper where you came in and you got to pick out your bowl from just this long, 5 tables of bowls. And then you got all the soup you could eat, chips and salsa and bread, and wash the bowl and take it home. So 22 years, soup has been tied into my teaching. And going back to the simple sharing of your passion, I know your viewers, they do something, it could be gardening, it could be knitting, it could be crocheting. There's such a need out there, in senior citizen homes for a nice knitted blanket or some flour. I don't know. There's just so much you can do out in the world to make the world a kinder place.
That's fantastic. Do you see soup in the future next to your salsa brand in the grocery store?
You know what? I've been thinking about that. And my co-packer up in Richmond is huge. They pack for Trader Joe's, they pack for airlines, Williams and Sonoma. And I sit there, where I sit in Jensen's in Palm Springs, right there in the corner, and I watch the hot bar. People buy soup all the time. They're hot there. They also have them cold. And sometimes in my demo, I do my blended tortilla soup, and I'll have a couple thermoses there, and I'll say, are you okay with chicken broth? Oh, yes. Well, here's the recipe. It's down on my table. Take a screenshot of it and go home, do a little, walk through the store. The ingredients are simple. And I give them a little shot of soup in a cup with just a dollop of my guacamole.
How often are you doing how often do you do your sampling agendas, or that was a lot?
Well, actually, I'm going down after I'm done here, and I will be at the Palm Springs store and the Palm Desert store
today.
So today. And I probably will do the Palm Desert store first for a couple hours and then go down to Palm Springs. It's just easier for me to go up Gene Autry, and I'm a little closer to home, so that's usually my pattern. And I just love meeting the people, telling my story, and then having them taste the salsa.
It's a great story. It's a great story. It's a great location. It's your stuff tastes great. It's like I said, that's how we met. And
yes,
I love your story.
Thank you.
I love the fact that you're not stopping. And I know you think it's less than we used to do, but it's still more than the average.
Well, and when I say I'm chasing Southern California, the corporate stores, I'm in Vaughn's sister store up in Northern California, which is Safeway, but Northern and Southern California are 2 different corporations. So I'm going to my distributors huge food show in San Diego in February. And I tell you, I want to have a microphone, I want to have a little platform, and I'll just come taste the best salsa on the market. And I'm hoping.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And you're doing your own accounting, you're doing your own, purchase ordering, and you're doing all that, the behind the scene minutia stuff. You're doing all that yourself.
Well, my stepsister is my bookkeeper,
Okay.
and bless her heart,
Bless her heart.
it's a couple times she's ready to pull her hair out, and then I kind of jump in and say, I'll take this one, I'll take this one. We have to keep peace in the family here.
So inspiring. I love that. I just love that. For the ones that, complain of not doing enough or don't have enough to do, you can have Leah here if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love your story. I'm glad you came. I wish you all the best in the world, especially more stores, more across the country. I certainly going to be a customer, and maybe one day you can get the strength to go on Shark Tank and face Mr. Wonderful and tell him what he can stick it. Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I watch that show all the time, but man.
Me too. I love the show. I love the show. I think it's a great show. And I know it's intimidating. You have to be ready. Don't go on there if you're not ready. Have your ducks in order. All the questions they ask you. You can do it. I know you can do it. So thank you again for coming. And everybody, you've heard the story. If you live in Palm Springs or in the Coachella Valley, go, try it. And I did try it. Fantastic. This is my last podcast of the year. So for everybody out there, including you, have a wonderful holiday. Be safe. We're going to have a great 2024, hopefully. And until then, be kind. And thank you, everybody. See you next year. Take care, everybody.